What's up, y'all? I am back. Sorry I could not get to do a video yesterday. So I am doing two right now. I'm doing the Final Destination review. And then not tomorrow, right after this video I meant to say, I'm gonna review Tango and Cash. So, and then tomorrow, I was going to review Equilibrium. I don't know if that's still happening just because I am seeing Jurassic World Dominion tomorrow. I already got my tickets tomorrow night. So it's one of those things. I don't know if I'm going to be able to, if I'm going to do a video. So I probably will. We'll see. But if anything, I'll probably still watch Equilibrium and I'll also review it Sunday because I'm most likely going to try to review Dominion Friday. But anyway, today, I am reviewing Final Destination, but next week, Final Destination will be on Tuesdays. This was a video I was supposed to do on Tuesday, but I didn't end up doing it. But Final Destination, I'll admit, when I was younger, I didn't really care for the series. Like, I watched them as, like, oh, you're just watching people die. But, like, there was no killer, and, you know, and I think at the time it just didn't interest me because of that, but the more I think about it, that's actually kind of interesting. And also, it makes it to where you can theoretically do these movies forever. You just get a new group of people. You can make it like, okay, the events of the previous movie happened, but, you know, you're just watching these movies die. And honestly, the acting isn't bad. You have and this movie kind of started some careers. And you have Ali Larter, you have David Sawa, Sean William Scott, who you recognize from, like, the American Pie movies. But the first Final Destination is just simple. I mean, the premise basically is a group of students are traveling, you know, overseas, abroad. But Alex, I think was the main character's name, has a premonition of the plane exploding, and I love how they do it, because at the time you didn't know it was a premonition. You would have thought, oh shit, they're already opening with the death. No, it's a premonition. And then he starts seeing the things from his premonition actually happening. So he takes his friends off the plane, and then the plane ends up dying. And then basically it works his way back because he ruined Death's design. And I like the way they do explain how death works in this movie, in these movies. In the sequels, to be fair, it does become more about the kills than the story. But I do think the first was a genuinely really good movie. You know, it's an hour and a half, but the way they explain how death works is perfect. You have Tony Todd. Like, I think that scene where he was talking about, like, how they ruined Death's plan and how death is working its way back is perfect. And it's great. And granted, this is probably the only bit of Tony Todd you get, but it's still great. And yeah, basically, they have to try to stop Death's design. And essentially, that's the movie. But it's simple premise. They maintain that premise. And I think that some of the kills are creative. Probably my favorite is the teachers, just because how sad it is. Because how sad it is and brutal. You know, she's just woke up. And then the way they build up the deaths, too, because they make it, what's going to kill her? Is it going to be this thing that's an actual potential death trap? And then yeah, perfect. I love these movies. So, I haven't watched them in a while. I don't think I ever watched the fifth one, at least not all the way. I've seen the first four all the way through that I remember. But, yeah. So, and like I said, immediately after this video, I'm going to review Tango and Cash. I watched that last night. Fucking love that movie. That movie is probably, like, that's one I wish got a sequel. Really sad it didn't. You know, it was a perfect buddy cop movie. And yeah, but anyway, cheers and kick off this review. So the movie opens up. We see Alex and his group of friends getting ready for their trip to Europe. For this, I think it's like for the summer. And, you know, throughout the film, Alex has started getting, like, these bad signs. He disregards them, and then when he gets on the plane, he has a premonition where the plane explodes, and I thought that scenario was awesome. Especially, I wonder, like, if you're watching at the time, you don't know what's going on with this movie. Like, you don't even know why it's called Final Destination, and then that scene, I thought it was executed well. And then the whole trip, oh shit, that's a fucking fake out. And basically, and I thought that Devin Sawa did great in this, man. Because it also does have you think about, like, you got out of the plane, but still all your other friends died. You know, it's fucking crazy, man. But, and so, like I mentioned, the events start kind of playing out the same way his premonition happened, so he freaks out and kind of gets him and a couple of his other friends kicked off the plane, because he was saying, like, oh, the plane's gonna blow up and stuff. And then he gets into a fight with, I think Carter, he's kind of like the douche of the movie. You gotta always have your one douchebag kind of character. So they get into a little bit of a brawl, and then the plane explodes, and I thought that sequence was done awesome, because they're fighting, and you see the plane just take off, and then you have Billy, Sean Williams guy, who I thought was awesome, as like the kind of comic relief. The plane blows up, and FBI agents question Alex. And basically, throughout the film, they start like suspecting that because you know how he knew about the explosion and stuff like that. So then we have a funeral, and this is where they meet more. He meets Clear. That's Ali Larter's character, who I thought was awesome in this. You know, and the thing is, what I like about this movie, in terms of minus the deaths, I really like the characters feel like real people. And this was something, and this might be a video maybe when we get closer to Halloween, is why older slashers work. Or I don't know what to call it, but it's basically the theme's going to talk about older horror in general. A lot of not just horror, I think in almost movies in general, I feel like this is a general thing. They didn't always just get like these model actors. Sometimes they did, but a lot of characters felt like actual people you would see in real life. That was especially in horror. I thought that was one thing horror always did well, is always get people that actually feel like people you could see in real life. You know, I feel like these people in this movie actually feel like real people. They don't feel like, oh, it's just a bunch of Hollywood names. I mean, Sean William Scott was kind of a name because he had already done like American Pie. I think that same year, Road Trip, he had done. But I thought he was perfect. And to be fair, there's some scenes he feels like Sean William, you know, like his normal kind of more comedic role. But I felt like he didn't overdo it. He actually showcased some range. So this is where we meet Tony Todd's character. I think I'll just say William. I don't remember what his last name was, but I thought he was great. It's always a delight to see Tony Todd, man. So he basically explains how they ruined Death's plan, and I thought he played it so well because he was like kind of creepy. You don't know if he's on their side or not, but he was, because I don't think you see him again after this. But so then a month later, his friend ends up. This is basically one of the first deaths, minus the plane explosion. Ends up choking himself, like, as he was getting ready to, like, you know, take a shot, kind of clean himself up for the night, but he ends up slipping on like some like bath soap, and then falls in and he chokes himself on the shower wire. And yeah, it was sad, man. I think the thing is, while I liked the later films, don't get me wrong, for how more graphic they got, I do think this one has the deaths are a lot more plausible. I do think 2 and 3, to an extent 3, still have a little bit of it, but I do think this one, a lot of the deaths in this, I feel like, are far more plausible. Plane explosion, this one, to an extent, you know, him slipping and then he ends up choking himself, you know. So I can kind of, like, the deaths feel a lot more plausible, you know, and I actually like that they felt like they put some thought into it. So we're going to go with, and I'm not, like, shitting on the later ones. I'm fine with a lot more elaborate deaths, but I do like the kind of the deaths in this are a lot more plausible. So then, basically throughout the rest of I think the other thing is this film is paced perfectly. I do like the whole, you don't know necessarily, like, it's death, but I like that they didn't, as much as I like some older movies, I do fear, like, if they had did this movie with, let's say, in the 80s, they would have actually had death. Like, you would have got, like, a guy in, like a Grim Reaper outfit. You know, don't get me wrong, that probably still would have been a fun movie, but I like that in this, there was no actual, like, being killing them. It was just, you know, it's almost like the force of nature killing them. And I actually thought that was kind of really awesome about these movies in general. And then the later ones, I like how well they tie in together. But, so, the next death is Carter's girlfriend, and I thought that this scene was just kind of, you know, we get a big argument between the group. She ends up storming off. Carter's girlfriend ends up trying to storm off, and then she gets hit by a bus. And then there was a sign where earlier you see like a speeding, but where Alex, like in like a reflection, seeing is like a speeding bus, and it's not there, but that's what it was. So like how well they like set up the deaths and kind of predict it incoming, and yeah, it was pretty brutal. So later that night, Alex's teacher is having a conversation, getting ready. Looks like, I think she was getting ready to make some like alcohol or something. And Alex shows up to her house. He actually is trying to check on her, but he looks creepy. So she calls like the FBI. The FBI pick him up because it does look like he's scoping out her car, doing something sketchy. So while this happens, and there's like so many signs, like one of the glass she's drinking starts like breaking, and yeah, it ends up breaking, and she ends up cutting herself, and she ends up slipping, and she tries to grab like a napkin, because she puts a napkin on top of the knife rack. And I like the foreshadowing these movies, at least this one. I have to watch. I haven't watched the other ones in a while, so I have to really see if they age up. But I think this one holds up. The way they set up the deaths, you know, because they set it up earlier, like she had put like this, like towel over the knife rack, and she was trying to grab it to like probably hold her, you know, to stop the bleeding, but she ends up grabbing it wrong, and it drops the knife rack, and then a knife drops in her chest. It's like so much goes wrong, and then Alex shows up way too late, and I think like an explosion or something causes one of the chairs to tilt over, and it ends up stabbing the knife further deep into her, and she dies. And basically he has to get out now, and her house blows up also. It's like so much goes wrong. So after all this, yes, so the police are now really suspecting Alex, and they're like trying to nail him. So now Clear is basically kind of hiding, and at this point they're going out. So they bring over Carter, and this is where we kind of get the scene of Alex explaining Death's plan, how he figured it out. Because there's even like a scene where he kind of does like a little test. And so yeah, Carter, this is where he kind of freaks out, and because he's driving, basically tries to potentially cause a suicide. Everyone gets out the car, and Alex manages to stop Carter, get him out of the car before it gets destroyed by a train, and then Billy dies, because throughout that scene you see like there's like this blade, like a piece of shrapnel on the tracks, and the train wheel hits it and it flies and it decapitates Billy. It's pretty brutal. Like that might be, like, in terms of like brutality, that might be my favorite kill. But yeah, like even that one to an extent is kind of plausible. I do like that about the first one. I think even the second one, to an extent, there's plausible ones in that. Because the second one, I do really remember the log one. That could happen, you know. So but like definitely by like I would really say even a little bit of 3 and 4 that is where it goes, like, okay, now it's just about, like, and it's fine, but I do like the realism of this one a little bit, where they do try to make the deaths at least plausible, seemingly. So, Alex is now on the run from the police, while trying to save, because he realizes it was actually clear who was actually sitting next to him. So basically, she's next in line to die. So he has to try to save her in every, like, second area she's in. It's like a death trap. So she ends up getting locked in her car while she's about to get electrocuted. And so after running away from the police, Alex saves her, but he kind of sacrifices himself and puts himself in harm's way, and he ends up getting electrocuted, but he survives. And they seemingly escape death, and the movie ends, and then they talk a bit about a cheating death, and then Alex realizes something is up, and then basically they imply that Carter's about to die because, like, a sign snaps out of place and is about to hit him, and then it cuts. Basically, it sets up, like, oh, death is still ongoing, and it's still after them. So, the first Final Destination is awesome. I think it's just a simple movie. If you're one of those, because, like, I have a friend like that who actually likes these movies, where he only really likes the first one. He likes the other ones, but he kind of just looks at them as, like, how I look at Friday the 13th movies, where you're just watching for the carnage, but he thinks the first one's, like, the only really genuinely good one. I can understand. You can almost watch it as, like, a solo movie. You can watch it by itself if you don't want to watch the sequels or anything, but this movie was fun. It knew what it was, but you had a good cast. The premise does have you think a bit, like, what would you do if you knew that, like, whatever situation you knew you were gonna die, and you stopped it from happening, but others died, and now you have to, like, live with that. And I thought the way they did that was, like, awesome. So, I would give this movie, like, an 8 out of 10. I think it's a really good movie. Simple premise. The cast was the core cast was pretty fun. They felt like actual people. I like how the deaths feel like deaths that actually could happen. And don't get me wrong, I'm fine with the far more elaborate ones from the later films, but I do like that, like, these ones are plausible. Like, probably the biggest plausible one is probably the first one, the plane exploding, or plane, exploding or something going on, and bad, it explodes. Or, I would even say, like, the teachers, to an extent, could happen. Because they're, because she was cooking something in a fire, a bunch of shit. So I like the realism to it, so I recommend it. Or if you don't want to watch the sequels, you could watch it as, like, a one-off, and, where it ends with death is ongoing, there you go. But, yeah, guys, Final Destination 2 will be next week. Next Tuesday, specifically. It will be Tuesdays for sure. I might even, like, do where I'll just start doing movie reviews in the morning before I go to work, I'm going to probably start doing that, like, because, I can't keep dodging videos and putting them off the next day, so, but, I am going to cheers. I'm not going to do an outro, because, I'm doing another video right after this, so just stay tuned. But, guys. Guys, I'll see you guys in a second. Peace.